So, right to be forgotten and all of that. So we started off with all of these lofty ideals. In fact, to the extent that we use things like Jitsi. I don't know. Some of you might be aware of Jitsi when it came up. Again, because we wanted to be responsible around all of our data practices. Zoom at that time was under it received a lot of flack because it had servers in China and a lot of that. But all of that, those were beginnings, right? And in fact, we introduced hearing rooms, the breakout rooms, where none of them had breakout rooms at that point in time. So I could just put you in a breakout room. Just explaining this context took a while initially, right? So these were those initial beginnings, and of course we struggled at that, kind of trying to scale that whole portfolio. But we learned a lot of lessons in the process. Now, fast forward another 3 years, then we had experimented with multiple models across both open source as well as third-party paid applications, and we received tremendous results. And we made a conscious choice to work with those models or vendors who were, say, GDPR compliant and so on and so forth. So those are the beginnings, and as we evolved, the market became a lot more receptive. We had a lot of, so to our advantage, a lot of chief justices of the High Court, the Supreme Court, who became arbitrators later, former chief justices of the Supreme Court, they attended. So a lot of, in the process, what we realized is trust is very important in the system. Credibility is everything. People don't know terrorists, people don't know you. So even if the top two players in the world, which at that point even now are Epic and Opus, even to this day, it's a constant struggle for us to market ourselves, because although we perform better at them along several metrics, this trust and it's very important for you to have made a mark within the arbitration circles. The circle is very small, right? So unless people know you, it's going to be a uphill battle. That's our learnings from the arbitration space, right? And then 3 years hence, as people got to know, we started building our efforts towards increasing adoption in India, right? There you're talking about domestic arbitrations, and one of the ways we did that is organically just going in and in these conferences, and we said we volunteered, we're going to transcribe your entire event proceeding for you, right? So, and that's how we ended up at the Delhi arbitration weekend. That was received very well, and as a fallout, actually the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Vinay was there, and he happened to talk about transcription and how it's going to improve efficiency drastically. And we were there and said, "Sir, we're transcribing this event," and he was elated, and that brings me to where we sometimes, we're talking about systems where these public systems where we think they're probably not as receptive, they are bureaucratic and all of that. But you see this anecdotal example that is happening at the helm of the judicial affairs in the country, the Supreme Court of India, in a matter of 5 days, and that's the dramatic portion here, right? So Justice D.Y. Chandrachudji came in and he said, "Oh, are you doing this? By the way, are you guys available to transcribe a constitutional bench hearing," which happens to be, by the way, a big deal. Okay. And he said, "Can you do it in, it's coming up on Tuesday," and mind you, this was a Friday, right? We said, like the ground was swept off of our feet, and we said, "Yes, whatever we'll do whatever it takes to make this happen." So, and then what happened? This was a Friday, and by Saturday we were still transcribing the Delhi arbitration weekend, and we received a phone call from 3 registrars of the Supreme Court. And they said, "You know what, can you come in and we just test things out before we can run the constitution bench?" We said, "I'm sorry, but I'm still transcribing this event. We're just a couple of folks here. Can we come tomorrow?" They said, "Okay. So we'll be there tomorrow. What time?" So they're asking us, right? So We said 3 o'clock, sir, does that work for you? Okay, 3 o'clock it is. And soon enough, in about half an hour, we got all the approvals that were required, of course, because it's a heavily guarded premises. And there we were with some, some Zoom car, some random car off the market, and then that we had rented out. We go in, and literally, it was like the pearly gates opening in front of us. This is heavily guarded. There are people standing, like the guards standing with assault rifles there, and then they come in. They ask you, "Who are you?" Like, "Who are these guys coming in?" And then we say our names, and they say, "Oh, sir, please." And then 1, 2, it's literally like the pearly gates opening in front of us. I actually have a video of that, maybe positive time. So it was really surreal for us because we are entering. That was the first time I was even entering the Supreme Court. I've only seen it in images. So we get in, and then we see this imposing structure in front of us, right? And then it slowly starts sinking in that, the magnanimity of what you're trying to do. So we enter, and again, Court Hall 1, we're there, and there are 30 folks standing there. All of them are like, so every kind of clamors around us, and they're asking the same question. So what do you want done for the event? And anybody just entering a hotel, yes, Wi-Fi ka password kya hai aapka? What's the Wi-Fi password? And we're talking about, we only need 2 things. We need a good audio source and good Wi-Fi, or better still, a LAN connection. So 2 days ensued. They did everything. I mean, the infrastructure wasn't set up for something like this. But sure enough, in a matter of 1.5 days, like Sunday another 2 hours, and Monday all in between all of the court proceedings, like around the court proceedings itself, they clamored for everything that they wanted to done, wanted everything that we wanted, and they put up they arranged all of the equipment that was required, and there we were, 4 o'clock on a Monday evening. The Chief Justice comes back because now he wants to check for himself, right? And so he did. We said, okay, go live, and he spoke. Nothing came up. Sure enough, that nothing comes up. And then we said, hit the button again, try it again. And then, okay, about 10 seconds later, things start appearing there. So that was UAT for us. So that's UAT. And then sure enough, he said, okay, gentlemen. So, I mean, there was no pause, and there was no second guessing at that point. He'd made up his mind that, we are going to introduce this. And the next day, we were there. I was there, the ground was again sinking beneath my feet just before, because we have the Eknath Shinde case. I don't know how many of you know that.
No,
so, right. And then I didn't even know the folks, man. I didn't know any of the councils there. I'm sitting, and there's this whole bevy of like the senior councils. I've heard about maybe a couple of them, like Harish Salve and things like that, but otherwise I had no clue. And then we sit there, the transcript starts appearing, there are errors, right? And sure enough, there's a team back end that's correcting it all in real time. We're doing speaker identification all in real time. We are doing, identifying the cases. So they just, like some of these cases are just spoken in half words. They just say Deepika, and then you have got to figure out, which case is this that they're referring to. They say Nabam Revia, and then you've got to figure out, where is Nabam? I have no clue. Like our transcribers have to. So all of this was an evolution. But then sure enough, at the end of the day, what really heartened us is what was the result that it got. So and that wasn't really, we didn't get a sense of what it meant to them until the day later, when they said, okay, we're going to give these transcripts to you as they are. So you just go through them. And then they came back saying that, this was immensely beneficial, especially after day 3 and day 4, because the first day they're still reviewing the transcripts. And then they said, you know what, it cut down our research time by half, because we now know for sure what was argued, what line of argument the other party is carrying out, and which is what puts us in a great shape to kind of formulate further arguments. And think about every second that you gain in a constitutional bench hearing, because there are matters of national importance, all of that, but more than anything, you are saving every second of decision making time at the highest level. So for us, that was the great set, right? And even as I was sitting there, I was trying to correct it myself. This is about 15 minutes, half an hour into it, and stop press. My friends start telling me, "Hey, what is this? Are you guys doing this?" And then it was all over the news. So that was our viral moment as well. But beyond that, so that was great. The judiciary at the Supreme Court really received it very well. That was the pilot for us. That's I would say that's a rosy part of the story, right? But what happens when you take it, want to take it and then scale it? That's where the challenges also come. Now that they've seen it, their expectations suddenly start to build up, right? So then they're talking about, can you make this at scale? We're talking about where they're talking about summarization, for example. Now we were talking about responsible AI and whose summary is it and all of that. So those larger questions started popping up in our heads, and when that crystallized in the form of an RFP, that's when you realize, no, this is for real, right? All the data privacy, so every single practice that we've ever thought about, all of them as best practices, whether it is data localization, privacy policies, and all of that. Now suddenly we've got to contextualize that and build that for the Supreme Court, and hopefully extend that to the larger community, right? So, but this is an example, anecdotal at the highest level, but it's an example of where public systems, if given the right authorities, and given the right inclination of the authorities, it took only 5 days for somebody, an untested private agency, to be able to display the potential of something, at that scale, where it was available for everybody to view. In fact, those transcripts are made available just 2 days later, so that everybody, like the nation, can access to it. So, but then there are also some pitfalls, some faux pas that we saw in the process also. So one of them, I think it was one of the senior counsels that was misquoted, and immediately a researcher of Bloomberg's repute went ahead and tweeted that it was misquoted. This took 2 seconds for me, because I saw the transcript coming. I saw, no, this is not the guy who's speaking, and that was manual correction. So the transcribers had incorrectly referenced that, and it took 2 seconds, and that was all over Twitter. That's it. Because the case itself was followed so closely, right? So it also it talks about, when we are talking about everything real time, we've got to at that level imagine the implications of going wrong with something like that. So of course we have some safeguards around it, where we also want it real time, because that's where the use is for them. But what we did was, the public version of that document would only be published 2 days later, because the first day, once we have our final draft, we give it to both councils to be able to review it and identify if there are any glaring inconsistencies or misrepresentations there, and then that comes back and evolved, and a 100% accurate transcript is then published. So that's been our story there. But as far as scaling this up, when we took it up with, we got in touch with the Kerala High Court, Sir Justice Mushtaq and Justice Raja. They were, as soon as we came out of that engagement and it was on the papers, Justice Raja immediately called us and said, "Hey, can you guys do this for us?" And then there, at least with the Kerala, I must commend them, that they've taken steps where they have established a backbone of theirs independent of NIC, right? So that allows them, gives them the room to develop outside of, and not be constrained by what an external party or could be imposing, right? So it allows them to evolve very quickly, very independently of that, and which is why we're able to do the things that we are currently engage with them. But the challenges also remain where in scaling this up, right? So when we, for example, we want to take it to the district courts. The district courts are not connected to the cloud. Like all of our offerings, because we are small and everything is in the cloud. So how do you take that? And while deploying there, again, how do we ensure we are aligned with all of these best practices? So for example, the right to be forgotten. How I do not, as a private entity, I will not have control over how that data is managed in their data centers once I deploy it, for example. And a host of other things where then for I mean, as a private entity, for me to be responsible for anything that happens in each of those areas is also another challenge. And I could have all the best practices in the world, but that can be only where I can control it. So that's a big challenge that we are facing. The other challenge is, of course, as a startup, we are always scraping the bottom of the barrel. And with a lot of these deployments, there is a sense of, I should say, entitlement that, you won't do it for us. Why would we be charging for this, right? And then, so some of these engagements are not sanctioned for almost a period of an entire year, which makes it very, very, very challenging for a private party to be engaged there. Although the intentions are great, and so those are some of the other challenges that we found. So I don't know. I mean, I want to pause here to ask any questions or any clarifications.
I'm a little surprised that the chief is saying that he could save a lot of time listening to the arguments. And honestly,
sure.
As any judge's experience, there are about 60-70% of cases, efficient judges dictate the judgments impromptu as soon as the
right.
arguments are complete. You don't therefore recall, look to transcripts and things.
Right.
It's done, noted there, and then delivered. Cases which require serious consideration, where you are in a bench of five people, where deliberations have to take place. That would probably be the time when you back and forth and see, was this argued, is this a point which does it not require something to be done. There again, transcription could be an area where they're able to see that. Even there, my experience, or what I also use transcription, digital
right.
transcription, it's for all my arbitration work. That's quite a bulk, actually. We speak with such inaccuracies, we speak
right.
with so repetitive expressions, grammatically bad, or what we can suffer easily while we talk. When we see that in print, it hurts. So it kind of wraps. so it is like that.
Yeah.
So to pick on where the person said what he said from that kind of a volume could be quite a task. Right. But we're talking about district courts and other things. This an area where there is enormous scope for transcription and activity of recording of evidence. Courts like Punjab and Haryana, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, they're so, the pendency is so high in trial work. Any court functions in 3 tiers. A judge will be hearing arguments. On one corner will be an advocate recording some evidence from some person. He'll put up his hand from there. Your Honor, this document is marked. No, it need not be marked. No, stop it there. Yes, continue, counsel. So it will be there at one level. Another, there is a court officer will be there recording something from him. So multiple tiers of functioning you will find. It's just not a case where a lawyer is presenting things. Now that is because every question which is asked, the judge dictates to the steno there, and he types it. And then an answer is given. That is typed again. This is how it goes. So the whole thing takes a long time before you allow for these kind of multiple tiers. You have transcription for recording of evidence of what takes. That is what takes time. The arguments and things, you don't like to really suffer a lawyer's argument the second time by listening. It's just not possible. Absolutely. It's not realistic at all. It's just not realistic. Right. You'll rather kill yourself than listening to a lawyer again. It's not possible. But then, our rare cases, there are some issues like, say, same-sex marriages or something is so important to what we're trying to see. Right. We are saying what is real, what is equal, very different things. where you would like to put that idea. You may not have all read everything. There would be a lot of literature that you would have been exposed to. So there probably listening would be better. But you should work this. If you are going to be inviting courts and judges to be helping them transcribe what is being argued, it's not a very attractive proposition to me, and I can't also believe that any judge is truly interested in that. By and large, they may not be. You should be looking for evidence which is voluminous and where you'll be able to help save courts so much time.
Sure.
And that's where we see. I have noticed in my arbitration proceedings what I would do in a day where transcription is available. If I were to be dictating and getting things done, it will take five times more. So that the kind of saving that I make through transcription of what I do in a day, the lawyers also see we charge by the hours, subject to a maximum of what is provided there in Schedule 4 of the Arbitration Act. So by a day, for 2 days or 2 sessions of day's work, it will go for 5 days work, and that will be the charge for that. So therefore, the litigants will also be saving. You can tell them, so you save up so much.
Sure.
You can really say the saving is possible. The number of hours of what an arbitral sitting will take place when there is a transcription available is really high. That should be your USP. That is where you should be able to make the volume and then selling idea. That is the selling idea.
Absolutely.
That's
so just a qualify.
See, the names and things. When you have only witnesses, you know the name of the person and things. Where there are several counsel, this is again where this is in Supreme Court an issue where there are several counsel there. In any one case, you will be having somewhere like 9-10 people coming one after another. Several persons will be saying at the same time.
Right.
But then in lower courts, you have 2 counsel arguing. There is one counsel who is a senior counsel supported by another person is only instructing you. You can collect the details. Only one person will be arguing, the other person will be responding. That should never be an issue. But then look for transcription. Beyond transcription, what AI is able to do is what I would be interested in. In fact, we started doing that, and then for some reason, when there was a change of guard there in the Supreme Court, we had to drop. From a whole volume of data, what you have, you should be able to predict questions. Depending on, say, at random, and take a criminal case. Then I predict questions like I try to tell them who is he last seen with, what did he die of, what is the injury that can result in death, what was the weapon which could have caused it, were there other injuries there, is that an object which was recovered, who recovered that, and was he then taken to the spot? Does it come within Section 27 Evidence Act about recovery, statement leading to recovery, or is it a confession under Section 25? We generated somewhere close to about 175 questions. We put that in jargon to see how things were. Remarkable. We could simply then keep on adding, as the judge says. So you don't lose time. As a lawyer is literally running through pages from this side to that side, where you have 1,000 pages and you are asking questions, random questions. You have, as you raise the question, you have an answer highlighted and you will be able to see. Especially when you provide to a judge a kind of a screen where you connect him to all the data. It's all, every case is now. Again, the problem would be there. You make computer legible documents. If you scribble so many things, it should all get properly. It should be possible for you to see that, read it, and then take it. So that's one area where if you can work, that's where it's crying for attention. Nobody has taken it. How do we see so much of data from there? Make these questions. Judges are difficult, exceedingly difficult. They could be very arbitrary in the question. So therefore, for a lawyer to be prepared is difficult. And therefore, you'll find a judge saying something, you don't prepare anything, go away and come some other days. It could be a frustrating experience. That you can, this unpredictable questions can also get written over a period of time. Or this kind of question could even be asked. Yeah, you'll be able to predict and then get an answer for that as well. So go along that way as well, and I'm sure.
Absolutely, sir. No, just to qualify what you're saying, we are the district courts. We are recording only evidence, like you said, and in the high courts, what we are doing is just recording orders. So that way, we reduce the 5 days that you were talking about to just about a few minutes. And all of that can happen asynchronously. You don't have to bother the judge with it. they come back, and you're not taking away the stenographer's job, because you're just improving the efficiency of the stenographer's job now, because you already have some ready-made transcript there, and you only go about and correct any errors. We give the audio alongside that. Absolutely. Sorry, I know you were also interested in what could we do additionally, and that's where Terrace as an offering is not restricted to transcription. We're talking about, think about a scenario where one of the use cases that we have is about 90 gigabytes of documentation. This is for one case, and this is about international arbitrations. Think about, let's say, a complex construction dispute where there are multiple contractors involved and a lot of entities involved. So the kind of documents that are generated, and I'm not even talking about videos or audio recordings, these are sheer log files and documents, right, PDF documents. So there, one of our effort is to manage the documents itself. Right now, the way they're managed is on OneDrive, SharePoint, and Google Drive, where I think a lot of us have experience where I don't know if it's all of that is going to download onto my system or not. B, I don't know if those will be accessible to me because internet connectivity issue, I could be traveling, so on and so forth. But then you come up with this issue that, okay, I've finally downloaded all these files. I have a huge bevy, I have a huge team that is going to be researching on that. But now how do you collect inputs? Like now, currently what happens is they still burn down rainforests and print those out and then start scribbling, making marks on that. People who are savvy, internet savvy and still like digitally savvy, they go on, take things like liquid text, for example, which is huge. I'm a huge fan of liquid text, and they make notes there. But now these have their own inherent challenges. With liquid text, maybe you could have 5 or 6 documents that you can start linking and so on. But now we're talking about anywhere in the region of 80,000 to 90,000 documents. So, and this is an actual arbitration procedure, and we actually do that on a regular basis. We hyperlink them, we index them, and then we produce these services, right? So there the challenge is, okay, I've done this, I've hyperlinked them and given to you. How do you manage versioning? What if a new document comes in? How do you add that to the document? How do you make sure everybody's literally on the same page, right? So that is another problem that we are solving, where we have an entire system where you can not only, so it provides an explorer style view. You can select the page number that you want to go to, just type out the page number, it will go to the exact document. It could be the page number, could be anywhere in the document. So that you can go there. You can make tags and annotations. I'll give you an example of the tagging. If you want everything that is related to delays that led to, let's say, a construction project, anything that relate to delay damages, for example, you can just tag it and it brings up a list of all the documents that relate to delay. Now suddenly you're not poring over 80,000 documents trying to figure out, even on your own like laptops or desktops, where you have Explorer trying to do a random search. Here there's context sensitive search that is already happening. So as you make annotations now, think about annotations where you're not making those annotations by yourself. You have an entire team making those annotations. How are you going to combine them? And especially, let's say you've given your co-counsels or the teammates 10 documents, or let's say 100, 200 documents to go through. How do you collect their inputs after that? Especially PDF. We know with Word and Office 65, we are able to do that because on Word, you open it up in review mode and things like that. But on PDFs, how do you collect all of this? So we provide the ability to kind of extract all of those annotations and give you a quick grid view of those annotations. Now suddenly, what emerges is you can search that by who made that annotation, what that annotation pertains to, which is tagging, and slowly we are only looking at how we are managing documents for that case, let's say just before a hearing. But think about what would happen, because these cases run not for like let's say a period of week, they run over years together, which means entire legal teams change, right? How do you manage attrition? No, not attrition, but how do you manage that flux within the team itself? A lot of them are making notes on their scribblies, and then that goes away with them. So here you have almost a perpetual system there, and the beauty of this is there is a single source of truth, which is everybody is looking at the same document, and that everybody could be the claimant, the two parties, the counterparties, and the judge, which in this case is the arbitrator. So no longer shipping expensive documents for burning down rainforest, shipping expensive documents, but also you are managing that for managing those annotations, access controlled annotations, so I don't accidentally see somebody else's annotations. And then suddenly you switch to public mode, all those annotations disappear. You're in the hearing, you just click a button, and then I have no other, so I can just freely share my screen, and that's there for everybody to view. What I'm here for, so all of that is in the realm of non-AI, right? I don't have to use AI for any of that. So what I'm here for is where now you have 80,000 documents, which is a private corpus, and I can now use AI with Llama or any of those, and then start querying context sensitively and for answers that sir was just mentioning about. So then you're able to say, oh, okay, by the way, can you query these documents? We can also order them by importance, for example. So as you're going through the review process, you star them. These are my 5-star rated documents. So suddenly in the hearing, you're no longer scampering for documents. Oh, can you open this index, this, and it opens up in a different tab somewhere else. And what another feature that we have there is hyperlinking, in the sense of I'm reviewing this document, and when I click, it does not open it. It does not move away from the context and open it somewhere else. The canvas just opens up, and the document I want to review is right beside me. So suddenly, I don't lose focus. I'm still in the parent document, and I continue to review this and review all the allied material there. So some of these are, probably a glimpse of what we are doing, and the idea being simplifying the dispute resolution experience for everybody. But that's where we are.
Does this tool just transcribe in English, or can it do other languages as well?
So yeah, thank you for that question. So we started off with English. We are working with Pratmesh and Varun and folks, so we can also expand into other vernacular languages. Yes.
Because as sir was saying, it would be great for like the trial courts and
absolutely, yeah, and that's the real use case that we are trying to address.
It's truly frustrating. We had now recently was in a committee having to make some inquiry, investigation into some sexual harassment, sensitive information. And we said this, so much of statements of what we are collecting from several persons who have been victims of violence. And we had to put it to the person. We didn't allow him the benefit of cross-examination directly. We gave those statements to him, redacted some of those portions which were not relevant to the person, and then asked him to prepare questionnaires and giving it to him. And they were as they were proceeding, they were Tamil and Malayalam spoken in abundance. All that bracketed Tamil patch, Malayalam patch,
right,
all gone. So then became a big challenge, having to go sit through, listen to what they were saying, fill them up. So unless you get, and I was told also, Justice Hemant Gupta is now in the arbitration, someone was trying to show to him. So much of questioning is happening in Hindi. If you are going to be merely transcribing to me what is in English, it's not helpful.
Correct.
So it's again going to be an important thing. All vernacular languages, and it should be. Like we speak, if I were to be speaking to a Tamilian sitting by my side, I'll be using Tamil and English with such, a kind of exchange which will take place seamlessly. And that's how it happens in courts as well.
Right.
You'll find if you are rather like I said, in Rajasthan, UP, these are all places where lawyers speak. Kaju, for instance, Justice Kaju in Supreme Court half the time will be speaking in Hindi.
Yes.
So therefore, there will all be major issues.
Yeah, to your point, when Hindi comes, we have a English model which prints in Dravidian for Hindi portions, and then so I mean, as part of that RFP bid, the Supreme Court, when they invited bidders, they showed that, and then like people there were wowed, how do you guys do this? And the bidders, mind you, included Google and AWS just sitting right next to me. But no, it's it's heartening to see how the legal community is really receiving this and receiving it at such a pace that, you know, we want to move as well as startup. We can't get stuck with something, and it really helps the cause. Absolutely.
See, there was a
Sure,
big
sir.
resource allocation with the 13th Finance Commission, with all the district centers having the ADR center. The ADR center, you had internet connectivity, there is a front-end office, you have front office, you have other rooms and things where you have every facility made available. That's where I think penetration has happened in a big way. You should be able to cash in on that, you should go along with that to make your products visible at various places along all the districts across India. All the districts have the internet connectivity now.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah.
COVID
Sure.
was beneficial. Like
No,
that
absolutely,
was
yeah.
increased the
I mean,
infrastructure.
Yeah, and a lot of time.
Purely from your perspective,
Yeah.
sitting here and doing the pitch, hearing a user give you feedback, this is 10 times money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is being recorded. You saved yourself hundreds and thousands of hours of going and making a headache in somebody because you got the man here telling you exactly what to do.
Absolutely. No, it's a privilege. Yeah,
Because-
definitely. Yeah.
No, thanks for saying that. But you see, all our experience now, post-COVID also, I've never required any party to move from any place to our place.
Yeah.
And in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, there is some section which mandates the High Courts to help or arbitrator to take the assistance of the High Court for evidence. So wherever is, like there are so many centers, area centers, we get them to come to the place. And then you have an office in Chennai where they collect evidence, but there is a back-end correction which is done. It's over, 3 hours later I have the transcripts, they send the same date to the person there, he signs up and then delivers to me. The kind of thing of what happens and what is, an arbitration is now, at least in some states where there is a lot of commercial litigation and things,
Right.
there's so much work. And evidence recording, I think transcription of what you'll be doing. You should be telling them also. Sir, you
Sure.
don't need to even get the party here.
Right.
Let them stay where he is. We'll be able to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
No,
then
that's definitely for
and
sure.
we see all of them. Many of my own colleagues have taken the cue, and then all the judges in any place, Bombay, Rajasthan, Allahabad, Delhi, all of these courts now they're sensitive to how they can allow for parties to arrive there and give evidence. In order that you keep the purity of evidence, that they don't get the prodding and other things, you are made to sit there in the member secretary's room,
Yeah.
the evidence. You should just go and say, no, sir, we'll collect evidence. They all feel very happy that their participants in a great movement, they changed and things. So,
No, to Sir's point, especially, you know, when I was talking about video conferencing, when COVID happened, we had a bigger challenge where witness coaching, and probably some of you know about that. So that became a huge challenge. How do you ensure that witness is not being coached? Of course, he's sitting in front of the camera, but a lot of things can be happening behind the camera that you don't know of. So we have to.
There's a very public incident of a court in America where a domestic violence case where the guy who was the abuser was sitting, there's a screen and right behind the screen,
Okay.
and this person was appearing in court on the domestic violence hearing. So it took like a very knowledgeable prosecutor to figure out that she was speaking under duress. Yeah.
Wow.
And there are like many such like documented cases.
So that's why these are issues, therefore don't allow the person to be sitting in the house, make them come to ADS.
In our case, sir, we tackled that issue by dispatching witness observers. So
that's also
we would.
expensive. It costs money. The lawyer
Correct.
has to be given additional remuneration
Absolutely,
to be
yeah.
there present.
Yeah. So, but we did that. So we would have representatives from our end go and sit there, so make sure the witness is not being coached and things like that. Not the
I
lawyers.
was going to say that the work we did, we could capture human duress through camera and AI. But then that's believing the point. I'm the guy's like, this can be done. Yeah, that can be done. I'm like, everything can be done. But I'm in a space like this where I don't want to say that because,
Right.
okay, like we get it now. Like before November happened, I could tell somebody and be like, I'm sure. December happened, yeah, you can do that, right? Like, dude, I'm supposed to be saying that. No. Oh, we know you can do that. You can do text, no? You can put the text, no? You can have the video, no? Hey, make a movie out of it. They're telling me now. It's like, okay, calm down. It can become a movie for you. See, but you told till November you can't even do that. December this happened. So now the ball is in my court to say, oh, now I will tell you to do things, you should say yes. No, it happened. Now, but the conversation has shifted to let's do it responsibly. Because we're very worried. Because now it was so small scale that I could get away with saying no to somebody or not approaching it. It's such a huge scale now that responsibility is given. So actually when you're saying, one thing I was worried on your behalf was, like you were saying, right, the court manager was taken away. You are the court manager now.
Yeah.
Right? The transcription is court manager now. Like, how does he make sure that you are not misrepresenting? You may not have malice, right? But the moment there is a transcriber in the person in the room, that person might have malice. So now is the software malicious, intentionally or unintentionally? Is the human managing software malicious? I don't know. For example,
Tell them that there is the whole thing is recorded for credibility of what you see
Correct.
there and print.
Yeah.
It's available.
No, in fact, yeah. So what we ensure there is they're all timestamped. They're linked. So exactly whatever.
Every second, do you see
Correct.
the line number? What
Can you bring
second
that
it
up?
was there? The question. So you have 9.023.
Exactly, sir.
You
So
have the whole time.
the whole the sentence itself is linked to the video.
If any of you want to head back, the bus is leaving, and there's,
Sure.
but I don't need to cut your session. But
Fine.